So, like I said, doing theist videos is kind of boring, but somebody sent me a link to this one dude, and I thought I'd respond to his video. I'm not going to put a whole lot of effort in it, I just have some time to kill. He doesn't really make any points that are actually all that worth responding to. But hell, you know, I'm bored. Let's give it a go.
What about it, YouTube? Alright. I just want to tell you something real quick about myself.
You're a man named Jed. You work real hard just to keep your family fed. One day you're out hunting food. something bubbling crude.
I used to be an atheist, okay? So I know where you guys are at, and I know how you think. And I know how you get this arrogance and this assuredness of yourself.
Well, I don't know. It just seems like if you knew how anybody thought, you would realize that saying things such as this is not a great way to start any sort of persuasive speech. People don't really like to be told that they have this arrogance and assurance about them. And also, if you knew how I thought, you would realize that when you say that you used to be an atheist, I will immediately think either A, you're a liar, or B, who gives a fuck. So, I mean, I think that's just like a fail on every front there.
And not only that, but for a little while I was sort of entertaining the anarchist point of view. So I know where it's like mentally to be in those two positions, and they're very closely related.
So to summarize, you're sort of a rudderless fool. Or if we're going to put it like Pink Floyd would in the song Time, you're kicking around on a piece of ground in your hometown waiting for someone or something to show you the way.
Because what they share in common is not wanting anyone to tell you what to do, and not feeling like anyone should be able to hold you accountable for your choices. Because freedom means doing whatever the hell you want, right? And with an atheist, you know, I've got so many of you guys that will say things like, you can't prove I've got a conscience, so I'm just going to say I don't have one.
I don't know what atheists you're talking about. Any of the atheists like on YouTube that I see, they just can't shut the fuck up about their goddamn conscience. I mean, honestly, I find it rather tiresome how they just go on about the shit. Look at me, I'm an atheist, but I still have morals and shit. I mean, I'm sick of it. I am just sick to death of it. But I don't know who these atheists are who tell you that they don't have a conscience, because, I mean, the atheists I know just won't shut the fuck up about the shit.
I'm just going to say that there is no objective right and wrong, when you know damn well that there is right and wrong. And it's not just some little thing for you to think that way. It's not some little thing for an anarchist to be anti-statist.
Oh, just because you stumbling and bumbling through a reality that's too complex for you to understand, you know, these two things seem similar, but they're really not. Being an anti-statist, there is actually a state. The state actually demonstrably fucking exists, where God clearly does not exist. So, like, a person might not want to be accountable to the state, but they have to admit, at least, that until they get rid of the state, they are going to be accountable in some fashion to it. Where God, by contrast, doesn't fucking exist, and the only people who want to be the arbiters of accounting are the yammering, controlling morons who say, oh, God exists and I'm their spokesperson. You know, people sort of like you. But, you know, priests, just religious people in general, they're so fucking annoying with that shit. It's like, listen, you want to tell people what to do, just at least admit that it's totally fucking arbitrary out of your ridiculous little fairy tale books. Okay? I mean, and I'm not going to listen to anything you say either way, but at least you'll be honest, right?
And to think that they don't need any kind of government telling them what to do. Because when you just throw away the boundaries in life, then you lose things like civilization first. And like I've tried to mention before, there's nothing to come in the back door to fix it this time.
God damn it. You said the boundaries thing, and I thought, like, okay, well, you know, religion doesn't stop the priest from violating boundaries by molesting little boys, but then I refrained from making a joke, okay? I demonstrated just, like, an unbelievable amount of self-control. And then, a few seconds later, you start talking about things going in the back door. Why are you tempting me, motherfucker? Why?
If we go out, we're going out for good, and it'll be the end of the species. It won't just be the end of civilization. And so something's got to save us. And
well, if that something is God, then we are well and truly hosed. When somebody says, the only thing left to do is pray, I take that as meaning, kiss your ass goodbye, motherfucker.
my YouTube videos and listening to all of you guys flop around on the ground bitching and moaning because you don't like what I say. But that's okay, because you know, it was people doing things like what I do now that turned me around and helped me to see the error of my ways. And so if even one of you guys pulls your head out of your ass thanks to me, then I guess I've paid back the people who helped me out. So I'm going to go back to this these papers that I've got on entropy, and I'm going to show you guys how science conveniently ignores certain constants and variables to just rationalize to get to the point they want to get to, and then leave well enough alone and not sweat the small stuff. But the small stuff needs to be sweated, because the small stuff is part of the big picture. So in all this stuff about entropy, right, it compares, like, it talks about the steam engine and how the original theories of entropy came about by studying the steam engine, and it talks about your home heater and how if it's unplugged, then it's unlikely to produce any kind of heat or convert any energy. Talks about vehicles and how vehicles need gas, and then it converts the gas into usable energy, into work, right? That's thermodynamics, energy and available energy for work. But what they've conveniently left out of the equations when it comes to living beings are a bunch of things. I already mentioned how they leave out sleep, which we all know that you need sleep for energy.
Oh, that's kind of funny. You do realize that the machine that is the human body, we don't have like mechanics to replace parts and shit at regular intervals, so we do need to like kind of go down and let the shit repair itself and sort itself out, you know, resynthesize some new brain chemicals. I don't even know how to respond to this, honestly. Because people need sleep, unlike cars that don't need sleep. Well, cars also wear the fuck out unless you constantly fucking maintain them. I'm sorry, go on.
They leave out the part of how they can explain how humans, mortals, are able to maintain a perfect body temperature of 98.6 degrees.
First of all, it's not perfectly maintained at exactly 98.6. A person's body temperature fluctuates by, you know, as much as 0.6 degrees throughout the day, and even your extremities aren't 98.6. It's not all that constant. It's not like it magically maintained through every single point in your body. And also, science can explain rather great detail how this is achieved. I could here, but I will explain later why I don't here.
How it got there and how it's maintained. Science also cannot figure out the difference between a living cell and a dead cell.
What the fuck are you talking about? Just, okay, here I have a cell. Let's try to figure out whether it's living or dead. Well, why don't we just put it in a solution with a known concentration of glucose and oxygen, and then later measure the amount of glucose and oxygen. And if there is less glucose and oxygen and maybe some carbon dioxide, well, then I guess this cell is alive. Of course, it depends on the cell because, you know, not every cell behaves exactly the same. A bacterial cell, a human cell, like certain types of protists that can synthesize their own oxygen wouldn't, you could develop a test for any particular type of cell, though. It might be a little difficult to do because a cell is so small and it would take a while to figure out whether or not it was alive. I mean, you could attach some radioactive molybdenum to some glucose, put it outside of a cell, and then watch and see if the radioactive material made its way into the cell. Although this, again, would be difficult, it's not in principle impossible. If nothing else, I mean, just wait and see if the cell divides, or just keep looking at it with some dye. And there's a lot of ways to tell whether or not a cell is alive. I hope you're not implying that there's some sort of magical force that imbues living things. Let's just keep going and see if that is what you're implying.
And even admits that there's something strange going on, some kind of entropy outside of the laws of entropy.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a very scientisty thing that a scientist would say. Also, entropy outside of the laws of entropy, that sounds like some stupid fucking horse shit to me. I mean, it doesn't sound, again, very scientific. And also, there's no law of entropy per se. I mean, there's the second law of thermodynamics, but there's no, like, law of entropy. And even if there was, nobody would say entropy outside of the law of entropy. I mean, it makes no sense. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just thought I would mention that.
That seem to give spirit or life, breathe life into a cell. But I got to thinking about some more shit that was left out of the equations. How about all of the complexities of what we intake, right? Like, I've had guys post on here, like, okay, you got sugar and sunlight and carbohydrates and da-da-da-da-da. Okay, where's all the vitamins? Where's all the minerals, right? We're not just engines. Your car never has to sleep, and your car requires one thing for daily driving, and that's gasoline.
Again with the car thing, well, if you really want to be technical, no, your car actually requires quite a bit more than that for daily driving. It requires gasoline, it requires oil, it requires antifreeze, it requires spark plugs, it requires sulfuric acid in the battery. It actually requires quite a few things. It's just that it doesn't eat them all at once and then distribute them throughout its various systems. It is not quite as self-regulatory as the machines that are us. But then again, I mean, come on, man. We just we started building these things like a little more than a century ago. We're not going to be able to make them quite as complex. I mean, I think it would be cool if we had a car that could just eat and then break down those materials and distribute them to the necessary areas to carry out the daily driving activities and even sleep to repair itself. But I mean, hey, why don't you write a letter to your local engineers and see if they can get on that shit?
Or diesel, depending on what you have. But it's just one type of fuel, and it never sleeps, and it'll go anytime. That's not the case with living organisms. It's not the case with humans. All right, we need sleep, and we need a complex grouping of vitamins, minerals, protein, fats, carbohydrates, sugars, all of it we need in a certain amount, and not too much because it could become toxic, for us to maintain our own sort of equilibrium and health, right? So let's talk about minerals. I mean, isn't that kind of strange how humans actually need inorganic things like zinc and other metals and other minerals?
You do realize that the word inorganic is just to contrast to the word organic, and the word organic, as it applies to chemistry, would just mean things with a complex carbon skeleton, things that have carbon double bonds and single bonds, and just really complex molecules. But it's not like it has any sort of magical properties that make it distinct from other types of matter. It's not surprising or strange in any way that we have inorganic materials within us. It's just the organic material is called that because it is of a specific type, i.e. made of carbon chains.
In order to process and in order to have health. And not only that, but in order to have energy, right? So here we are back to entropy and how we just leave shit out that's integral to living beings, ourselves specifically, and our energy, all right? So when it comes to releasing energy, several B vitamins are key components of certain coenzymes, molecules that aid enzymes that help release energy from food. Producing energy, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, pantothenic acid, biotin, and biotin engage in energy production.
Now here's where I both end the video, but before I do that I will explain why what you just said makes me disinclined to explain the complexities of biology to you. It's not because it would take a long time, and it's not because it's tedious. I actually kind of enjoy talking about shit like that. No. It's because of this. I could explain why certain things are certain ways, and then you would then just find other reasons to believe in Jesus, and then I could explain those away, and then you could still find other ways how that actually fucking supports Jesus, okay? And here's what it really comes down to. If you really wanted to know this shit, this knowledge is available. It's not like science doesn't know. You could go to the shittiest fucking community college, enroll in like a cell and molecular biology class. Okay, that wouldn't exactly explain the evolutionary history of vitamins, but I'm sure you could find a class or series of classes that could explain this shit to you. Okay, you could do that. But you have to pay, motherfucker. You want me to explain it to you? You have to pay me at least as much as a goddamn community college professor, which is to say not very much, but at least a pittance. Can I have my pittance, motherfucker? I am not going to spend an entire semester lecturing you on the goddamn complexities of life just so that you can keep screaming Jesus like a stupid motherfucker. If you really want to know, the knowledge is available. And you know what? You might even want to do it Goodwill Hunting style. You know, get a library card, $10. Well, I can't do a Goodwill Hunting accent, but you know what I'm saying. There are books that can explain all of this shit to you in extreme detail. Such extreme detail that you would literally have to take notes to remember all of this shit. Okay? There's no mystery with any of this. I mean, okay, there are a few things we don't know, but we do know for sure there's no magical fucking life force in the shit. I'm sorry. Have a nice day.